Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jack. Continuing on with our Resto Druid Adventures, we finally got into really the depths of like pug hell on this one. Through this video, we've gone through about 440, 450 or so in my gearing. I got through normal raid, I got a couple pieces there. Still haven't put together any sort of tier sets. And if you don't know quite what we're doing the Resto Druid Challenge, where we're only doing one add-on in details. We're doing the default starter talent builds, which lack Grove Guardians, lack a lot of really critical talents for around Plus in particular, and working our way up towards 0 to hero. So in this one, we were around 435, going through a few of these different dungeons. First and foremost, we had a crazy nasty Darkheart Thicket, which ended very, very abruptly. It was only like an 11. And I guess really because of all of the shortages that they've been having for healers, I've somehow been like ratting my way into a lot of these runs. So I like ratted my way into an 11, and it very, very quickly fell apart. Being able to have a lot of the people in the group getting melee just right off the rip from the tank, like losing threat onto targets to the point where we were having body pulling into just like grabbing bears, extra cats, and yeah, it really very quickly got me into experiencing how to forcibly like try to top off players whenever they're getting absolutely railed, and not having things like Grove Guardians to better like focus my output or get better single target really made me have to think on my feet when I was playing Druid with this setup, because like I said, I haven't really played it for 4 years or something before this point, and so I'm familiar of course with like the mastery where you're just trying to like blast output into this single target over and over and over again, and unfortunately there wasn't a whole lot to be able to work with otherwise, and so you're kind of having to think on your feet as you're playing with this really mediocre build and trying to make sure that you're using whatever resource you have on hand. And so for me, even trying to like bust out some tranquilities for even an extra mastery stack, even though it feels really atrocious in a 5-man environment, I did have access to, again, to like Flourish, which I then was able to learn firsthand how much it sucks or how bad it's been compared to where it also used to be. So that 11 just died very rapidly, unfortunately, which then brought me onto the 13. And like I mentioned before, it seemed like there was just a lot of shortages for healers, which is helping me to like get into some of these groups. My character is not connected with Raider IO, so I wasn't able to show any of my mains achievements or anything like that. It was really just based off the experience that I was building only on this fortified week so far. And it's always tough to be able to get in if you don't have any experience, just like it can be pretty tough to get in if you don't have any experience or certifications with jobs. Bringing us to our sponsor for the video, Boot.dev, which is offering 25% off their first purchase on their site, offering an amazing way to be able to learn how to code in both Python and Go, programming languages, for back-end development. They believe it's the smartest way and best way to learn how to code because you're actually doing it, and they've built an online, self-paced, captivating RPG to be able to go alongside it. They break down each of these lessons into easy-to-understand segments, along with their own AI to be able to help you along the way to make sure you're figuring out these answers in a self-paced environment. They even have XP levels, achievements, and quests that you could be doing along the way, and they believe in their product so much and how it's going to help you get better and help you learn Python and Go that they offer free demos for all of the courses. They also have a very active Discord community with other students there to help you overcome any challenges you might have. Big thank you to Boot.dev for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back into the rest of Druid Adventures, as very quickly as I ratted my way into this 13 Dawn of the Infinite, I ended up losing a member of the team almost immediately. We did a pretty big first pull with Invis Pots, and then had a Ret Pally die, and then had the Ret Pally leave. And so this 13 Galakrons fall, we had 4 people going with us throughout the entirety of it. Now, this is really where I started noticing at around like 440, some of like the stress that would be out there for healing. It, in some respects, got like a little easier when you knew that there were going to be the same like 1 or 2 people hit every single time when you're in like the sand room by some of like the tainted sand or some of the extra casts going off. It really helped that like we had double melee for a lot of the stops, but I noticed that most of the actual stops and even like knockbacks like Typhoon for Druid are not built into the basic build. So that made it a lot harder for me to be able to actually get any sort of progress done for helping like reduce or mitigate any of the incoming damage. Thankfully though, getting into the time waste boss was actually not too difficult at all when I was playing Druid. Thankfully, again, because it was only fortified instead of having to deal with some tyrannical, and everybody in my group was way tankier than some of the other comps that I run with previously. So for this encounter, it wasn't really too bad whatsoever, plus being able to actually just focus on stacking up hots on only like 3 or 4 players. It was really just like this first dispel that I was convinced that we were going to lose somebody because we had the AoEs go off like back to back, and I pretty much had to throw the entire kitchen sink of resources out there to be able to heal it. But after that point, that's where I felt like I was able to just have a pretty decent mastery of what was going on, or at least good enough to make sure I kept everybody alive. Since we hadn't pressed our luck enough, we decided to start doing double dragons, and again, I think I'm only 436 or so, in this video. And so it was certainly very, very stressful. I actually have ended up getting loot from most of the dungeons I have been running throughout this series, so it was making progress, but it was certainly taking some time. And as you can see, it really got very hairy near the end of like the double dragons when you're running out of resources and you're really just like leaning on the hots to be able to carry. And I really noticed, I mean, obviously a lot of it's going to be from like the gear and from the eye level, but at this level in particular, it's pretty noticeable when you have certain groups that are using defensives and are not using defensives. I think the difference in like Pug Hell that I've really noticed is like the 11 to 14 range in particular has such crazy variance in who's running. Sometimes you can like very clearly tell that they're like experienced alts, and other times you can tell that people have not played the game whatsoever until this point. And obviously nothing wrong with it because this is the area to learn, but it offers these like really drastic differences for the healer because there's so much burst damage, there's so much unavoidable AoE, especially in a dungeon like Galakron's Fall. That's kind of the perfect environment really to experience that Pug Hell, especially when we're at a point where we're 4-manning it the entire way through. So the double dragon back-to-back pulls were very noticeable with this comp because while I felt really, really weak, it also was noticeable that I was able to push enough output to keep people alive who were, as it seemed, using more of their defensive than some of the other pugs that I've experienced, including the one that we're going to show you for our next video as well. Our final very dire challenge was, of course, Chromy, because the amount of damage that Chromy takes is based off of how many players are soaking. So the less people that are soaking with Chromy, the more damage that she's going to end up taking, which means that she basically will die unless you have some hot on her, some sort of healing effect that's going to be going out onto her as the AoE is going to be going off, or she also will like survive with like 1% health. That was my experience, is she lived with like just 1% HP, and oh my god, is it absolutely terrifying. I thought that if she had no hots whatsoever, she might have died in like retrospect, but it turned out just having everybody in there, having some kind of healing onto her was enough, or just having like everybody stacked up together. So somehow we were able to keep her alive through that. But once again, I do get like some treants from the Incarn procs that I'm getting out of my current talent setup, but since it's every like 10 or 12 seconds or something, I feel like I can just never really rely upon it whatsoever for output. And so I have like some treant healing that I'm actually producing over the course of this adventure, but very, very little. Also noticing that I was missing a couple abilities like Moonfire after this run. I was missing some damage abilities here and there, so we rectified it after that point. But this certainly was a nice highlight of just how depraved the Pug Adventures can be, and also some of the frustrations that you have to be able to deal with it alongside of it. Healing Chromy, oh my god, is it super easy as a Resto Druid. Holy crap, just putting up Life Bloom and then just stacking a bunch of haunts was stupid easy along the way. But this one was definitely a challenge. This is definitely a fun one. If you guys haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Huge love to our patrons and our Twitch subs who make all of this possible, as well as boot.dev for sponsoring this video. Once again, if you want to check them out, they're linked in the description down below. Thanks so much again, you guys, for watching. Hope you all enjoyed it, and we'll be continuing on with another mass death event, mass extinction event in our next video. Enjoy.